The other day, Sound on Sound gave us maybe the best gift we've ever received as a music production community. They hired 8 world-class engineers to all mix the exact same song. So we can compare 8 world-class mixes back to back to back and hear how different 8 mixes can be and what is similar across all of them, so we can really understand what makes a pro mix, and how can they all sound so different yet all be considered professional. Obviously, if we're having this tier of mixers all mix the same song, they're all professional, but they sound drastically different. So what I want to do in today's video is go through these 8 mixes. Actually, there's kind of a bonus 9th one, so we'll compare that in there as well. Go through all 9 of these mixes and highlight the things that are the same and the things that are different, and help you identify what your preferences are and how that can influence what you focus on in your mixing. And understanding those two things will be massive for you. I think when we're starting out, we all kind of view professional mixes as being the singular thing. I'm just trying to get a professional mix. And while there is some truth to that, there's a singular group of objectives that you have to cross, a hurdle that you have to get over, a threshold that you must cross to have a professional mix. Beyond that, there's a whole lot of preferences that if you don't have clarity on what your preferences are, it's going to be really hard for you to get a mix that you're happy with. You might make something that's technically professional and your friends are impressed with, and it crosses the threshold where if it's on a playlist, for the most part, it sounds as good as the song before it and the song after it. But you might not be happy with it. And where is that line? What is that threshold? And then what is making up the difference above that threshold that you need to understand? So at the end of this video, I'm going to give you 2 action steps, kind of 2 takeaways that if you focus on, you will get a more professional mix and you'll be able to understand what you should focus on to get a mix that you're happy with. Both things are just as important as each other. Now, before we get into it, if you're struggling to get a mix that you're happy with, I want to give you something. I've put together a completely free 6-step checklist that just goes through the 6 steps that all professional mixes have and how to do them. It's completely free, so be sure to pick it up from the link in the description below. And I also want to mention up top that this is a video that's kind of a reaction to kind of my own take on Sound's work. So Sound on Sound has a great article that I'll link to down below here and a video that I'll link to above here. So if you want to just go straight to the video, you can. But in the article, they also include the audio that we're going to be listening to today, these 9 mixes, as well as the multi-tracks for the song. And they've partnered with modernmetalacademy.com to do in-depth walkthroughs on their website. So you can check that out. Apparently these in-depth walkthroughs with the engineers going through their sessions, showing how they did the mixes, is completely free. So once you find a mix that you like the best, you could go watch that completely free tutorial on what exactly they did inside that session. Could really help you out. But let's go and jump into Logic and take a listen to these mixes. Okay, so the 8 pro engineers are Andrew Scheps, Fredrik Nordstrom, Jens Bogren, Mike Exeter, Josh Middleton, Adam Nolly Getgood, Dave Attero, Buster Odenholm, all world-class engineers. You definitely have heard mixes by Andrew Scheps. He's a personal favorite of mine. He's done everyone from Red Hot Chili Peppers to Metallica to Adele. So really world-class engineer that works in a lot of different genres. Adam Nolly Getgood is one of my favorite metal engineers. He's really, really talented. And then Mark Minette is the Sound on Sound author, and he said that several of the engineers asked him for a reference mix. So he and his team, he calls it the research team, did a reference mix. So this is their mix. And it's neat to think that all of these 8 engineers heard this mix, but then ended up with very different sounding mixes. I find that very fascinating. Now, this is a metal mix, but even if you're not mixing metal or you don't like metal, stick around because mixing is mixing, and the takeaways that you're going to take away from this video are going to impact you in whatever genre it is you're working in. If you're working in folk or rap or rock or singer-songwriter, it doesn't really matter. The takeaways from this video are about mixing, and mixing is mixing is mixing. It doesn't really matter too much the source material, and you can still have a preference of tonally what you like, even if you don't like the actual source material, even if you don't like the type of song that this is. Okay, we're going to listen through all these really quickly, and as we're doing our first pass, what I want you to focus on is seeing if you can identify what's similar across all of them. There is a key threshold that I mentioned that establishes pro mixes. So try to identify what you think that threshold is, what makes up that threshold, and then I'll share what I have over years and years and years figured out what I consider to be the pro threshold. Okay, let's check it out, starting with Mark Minette's. how different are those mixes, right? So what do you think is similar across all of them? What makes them all a pro mix? Now, to me, what I feel like are the three things that all these mixes have in common and all pro mixes in general have in common are, first and foremost, they're balanced. And they're balanced in three ways. They're balanced across the volume spectrum, so there's nothing that's ever too loud or too quiet. They're nice and balanced. They're balanced across the stereo field, so they're never leaning off to one ear or the other. Everything feels pretty balanced. Maybe they'll lean for 1 second, but then it will resolve, so creating tension and then resolving. But in general, it's balanced across the stereo field. And then third, they're balanced in their tone. And they all have very different tone, but there's nothing that's way too spiky in any particular area. There's nothing that's feeling really off. It's not really cloudy in the low end or way too harsh in the high end, but they're all very different. They have a different tonal balance and they're highlighting different things and they have a different feel across them. They vary from a really organic, natural sounding mix on the Andrew Scheps side of things to like a very hyper reality type mix in the Dave Attero side of things, which means that it's like super bright, super forward, super upfront in a way that's maybe unrealistic, but feels very exciting and very, almost like larger than life. Whereas Andrew Scheps maybe feels dull in comparison, but has a very organic, natural feel. So they can sound drastically different, but they're balanced across the volume, stereo field, and tone. Then second is they all highlight the key elements. And in any song, to some extent, that's usually the vocals, if there's vocals in the song. But there's always some sort of lead element. So at some points in the song, it's also the guitars, the kick and snare are also lead elements. Those aren't totally buried. And they're all highlighted. You always know what you should be focusing on, and it's always clear and upfront. It's never lost inside the mix. All of that carries through across all of these mixes. And then third and finally, they've removed any distractions. There's nothing that pulls your ear like that feels a little bit off right there. It's all just like balanced and blended in a way that there's never a distraction. It's all balanced and it's always highlighting the key elements. And then there's nothing that's pulling your focus away that's throwing you off. So to me, that's a threshold. If you reach that threshold, you can get a professional mix. But then how do they all sound so different? And that's just a matter of preference. Each of these mix engineers feels very strongly about the mix that they did. I'm sure they feel very confident in the mix that they did, but they all sound drastically different. So the second part of this is I want to go through and have you identify what is your favorite of these mixes. Again, whether or not you like this genre, you can have a tonal favorite. You can have kind of just what is the overall feel that you like the most, and that can help give you a lot of clarity about what you should be attacking in your mixes. So let's go back through it one more time, and we're just going to be focusing on which you like the best, and what do you notice that's different about that makes you like it the best. Now, if you want to spend way more time with this, I linked the Sound on Sound article down below where you can download all these tracks and go through them in depth. But let's go and get into it, starting again with Mark My Net. Okay, first, let me know what was your favorite in the comments below. I'm so curious what different people liked. I shared this in my private community and was shocked how many different favorites people had compared to my own, and how some people liked the same as me, but other people didn't, and it really highlights one of the big takeaways. Let's talk about those final two takeaways from this video that I think could really help you with your mixing, and it's something that's taken me years to figure out on my own, and hopefully just watching this video and thinking through this on your own can give you that same kind of realization in a matter of minutes. So very excited to get this out in the world. But takeaway number one is that there is no singular pro sound. There just isn't. You have to figure out what your sound is. And that is a lot harder than I think a lot of people realize, but it's also very freeing because it means that as long as you hit those objectives that we talked about earlier, you have a balanced mix, it highlights the key elements, and there's no distractions, then you can hit that professional standard. Then you got to figure out what you actually like. And what's great is that you're going to naturally figure that out. And other people are going to tell you, hey, I don't like your mix. And other people are going to tell you, hey, I love your mix. And both of those shouldn't influence you as long as you know what you like, which is the second key takeaway. Figure out what you like. So there's no singular pro mix, and then what you like is the most important thing. I heard this great interview, I think on the Tape Notes podcast with Finneas a little while ago, and Finneas is like Billie Eilish's brother and producer, and he has his own project. And when he was early on in his career, he had a mentor tell him, hey, the most important thing you can do as you're learning to mix and learning to make your own music is establish your own preferences, because other people are always going to come at you from either side. I love the sound of that. I hate the sound of that. And it's going to make you doubt or feel overly confident in your decision. But at the end of the day, the biggest offense to either side of that, and more importantly, the people doubting it or putting you down, is you being able to say, no, that's what I wanted to do. So his example is he really likes a very, very compressed vocal sound. But some people will say, hey, that's way over compressed. But it's not over compressed if it's what he likes and what he was going for. And as long as he establishes what he likes and what he's going for, then no one can tell him that he's wrong because he's hitting those other thresholds. So he's already crossing that basic standard. Now it's just about establishing what he likes. And as long as it's what he likes, he's never wrong in the eyes of other people because it's a preference. He made something that he subjectively likes. You're never going to make something that 100% of people all like. As long as you're at that threshold, they'll all respect it within reason, as long as they like that genre. So hit the professional threshold, but then everything else is just establishing what you like and what you feel good about. Now, if you're struggling to hit that professional standard, again, if you don't already have my 6-step checklist to a pro mix, be sure to pick it up. I'd love to hear from you. Was this helpful? Is this something that you think is going to impact the way you approach mixing in the future? Let me know in the comments below. And again, let me know who your favorite was. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week with another video.